Hello, and thank you so much for joining us on CBS 8 Plus. I'm Heather Myers. Here at CBS 8, we are working for you, getting to the bottom of some of the problems that you've asked about, and we're looking for solutions. A recent string of doorbell ditches and home break-ins have people worried about their safety. In fact, viewers have reached out to ask us what's legal and not legal when it comes to defending your home, especially when it comes to the use of force. CBS 8's Jenny Day is working for you and has those answers.
In the middle of the night, even in broad daylight, some San Diegans are waking up to the ring of their doorbell or loud banging knocks. Frightening, but not illegal. So at what point can you intervene?
They just need to stop. I mean, they're playing with fire.
Authorities are concerned ringing someone's doorbell could lead to unintended deadly consequences.
This is a very serious threat. Imagine you're sleeping and someone comes into your home.
There's an expectation it may happen Halloween night, but nothing like this. With Ding Dong Ditch recirculating as a popular TikTok prank we're seeing year-round in San Diego. So I sat down with CBS 8 legal analyst Dan Eaton to find out what you can and cannot do.
When you're talking about the defense of the home, it's going to be of interest to everyone.
In California, since 1872, the king or queen can defend their castle.
The statute says any person using force intended or likely to cause death or great bodily injury within his or her residence.
The castle doctrine allows you to use lethal force if you're in fear and someone has entered your home. So while brazen and these doorbell ditchers are on your property, they have not crossed that threshold. Even if they're in your backyard or break a window, still not enough to hold up in court in California if you open fire.
It can't be outside. No, the person has to have forcibly entered your house. So in other words, if you see someone lurking, call 911.
He told me there's also gray area if you happen to shoot a member of your household. Think a teenager who sneaks out. So know that it could lead to civil or criminal charges, including murder.
What was in your mind? Did you use more force than was reasonably necessary? And reasonableness is going to be assessed in hindsight. So you have to be careful here.
Working for you, Jenny Day, CBS 8.
Living in San Diego isn't cheap, and it's actually about to get even more expensive. CBS 8 found out insurance companies are hiking up rates well above the rate of inflation. Already, we have received emails from viewers just stunned by their new bills, and they're wondering why this is happening, especially because they've had no claims. CBS's Steve Price is working for you to get answers about what's causing the hike.
I thought it was a typo.
Tony Obregon lives in a two-bedroom condo in Mission Valley.
These are normal deductibles, normal deductibles, no claims.
Here's his homeowner's insurance bill from 2023. He paid $383 a year. His bill for 2024 just arrived, and the cost this year, $2,108, an increase of more than 400%.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it.
Turns out Tony's not alone. Working for you, we went through state documents and discovered several big insurance companies have applied for and been granted increases well above the rate of inflation.
The insurance industry is taking advantage of unique circumstances in the market today.
Carmen Balber with Consumer Watchdog says insurance companies are claiming inflation combined with the fear of major fires requires big rate hikes, but those have to be approved first by state leaders.
And they're threatening the Department of Insurance and politicians in Sacramento that they'll leave the state of California if they don't get what they want. The insurance commissioner in some instances is bending to that pressure, rushing through the rate increases that insurance companies are demanding without full review.
State Farm, which has the largest market share for homeowners insurance policies in California, sent CBS 8 a statement saying these rate changes are driven by increased costs and risk and are necessary to deliver on the promises the companies make every day to their customers. So how can you fight back? Experts say don't just accept your bill and pay it.
Consumers across the state are seeing rate hikes, and what consumers need to know is they do have the option to shop around.
That's what Tony did, and he's already found a lower rate.
With the cost of everything rising, and then on top of that, the insurance premiums doubling, tripling, quadrupling, it's too much for people.
Well, CBS 8's Steve Price is continuing our coverage of the San Diego housing market. Homeowners looking to build ADUs are getting some incentives from a new law that just went into effect. But the question is if they will have any effect on San Diego's housing crisis. Steve is working for you to explain the new laws and update us on where local cities stand on the one that could have the biggest impact in our area.
With the new year comes new laws, and a handful of them deal directly with ADUs, including one that gives cities the option to allow homeowners to sell their ADU independently from their main house. Not surprisingly, there are some who support the idea and others who have serious concerns.
The thought behind the new law, AB 1033, is that ADUs will sell for a lot less than a full house, allowing more people an opportunity to buy a home.
I think it's a great thing.
Rafael Perez is chair of the Casita Coalition, which encourages the building of more smaller, affordable housing.
You're not sharing walls, you got a little bit of a yard, hopefully somewhere to park. And that's what we're really hoping for. The people get this opportunity to own a piece of San Diego that otherwise may be locked out.
He also believes it's great for seniors who own a home but need more income to stay in their house. They can sell an ADU for extra cash.
Before we add more significant changes to ADUs, we need to go back and re-examine what we're trying to get out of the program.
Jeff Huter, chair of Neighbors for a Better San Diego, isn't opposed to AB 1033, but he says the state law assumes one ADU on a property, not several, like the city of San Diego currently allows.
We're off on some big code branch that the state never intended, and we're not doing a good job of figuring out how our branch aligns with state law.
Working for you, CBS 8 reached out to several cities, and so far, none have approved the sale of ADUs. San Diego seems to be the closest, telling us the mayor supports efforts to increase homeownership opportunities for San Diegans. At this time, city staff is evaluating the law for possible implementation. Most other responses were similar to Oceanside, which told us at this time the city of Oceanside is not considering any changes to our local laws in response to AB 1033. Another new law is AB 976, which allows homeowners to rent their ADUs. That was already allowed, but the current law was set to expire, and this extends it indefinitely. And the third new law is AB 434, which forces cities that have been slow to adopt ADUs to have plans in place by next year to accept them. While ADUs are a polarizing topic around our county, there is one thing everyone agrees on. They are not going to single-handedly solve our housing crisis.
This is just plugging the leak and keeping it from getting worse, but to really fix it, we're going to need all housing types and all types of neighborhoods for all types of people.
Working for you, Steve Price, CBS 8.
Respiratory illnesses typically spike during the winter, especially with holiday travel and gatherings this time of year. But have we hit our peak yet? CBS 8's Brian White is working for you to break down the latest numbers here in San Diego County.
Seeing a little bit of an uptick, but right now, over the last week, even seeing that level off and maybe decline a bit.
Anil Kaswani is Chief Medical and Operations Officer for Ambulatory Care at Scripps Health. He's been tracking 3 viruses, COVID-19, influenza, and RSV.
Looks like our most recent data point shows that we would have plateaued. And again, that's really encouraging news and makes a lot of sense given the holiday gatherings and travel that happened over the holidays.
I looked at the county's COVID cases. The daily hospitalizations peaked the day after Christmas at 198 and steadily dropped the next few days to 174 on December 30th. At Scripps Health, they've seen a bit of an uptick in COVID cases.
We have 80 patients in-house that have COVID, and that's about compared to about 60 a week ago. To give you a context, our maximum COVID numbers were about 500 back almost 3 years ago at this point.
Over the past 6 months, we've seen more than 31,000 COVID cases and more than 9,000 cases of the flu and more than 3,600 RSV cases. But according to the county's numbers, weekly case totals for all 3 of these viruses started coming down the last week of the year.
It looks like for RSV that we may be past the worst of it, that we've hit our peak and coming down.
Edmund Milder is a pediatric infectious disease specialist at Rady Children's. He says these respiratory viruses have a lot of overlap when it comes to the symptoms they present.
People are going to have a runny nose, a cough, sometimes a fever, maybe some achy muscles, and it's hard to know exactly what you have. For most people, if you're healthy otherwise and able to stay hydrated and have a good amount of energy, these are things you can handle at home, no matter what the virus is.
While we may be seeing cold and flu numbers starting to decrease, as we typically do in January and February, both doctors tell me the flu shot is still useful.
Make sure that you're avoiding social contact, that we're not spreading these viruses. If you're not feeling well, stay at home as opposed to come into the office.
Working for you, Brian White, CBS 8.
All right, Brian, thank you. Remember, if there is something that you would like us to look into, you can email us at workingforyou@cbs8.com. Thank you so much for joining us here on CBS 8 Plus, and we'll see you next time.